Here we go. All right, folks. Today we are going to be doing some welding with this setup right here, as you can see to my left. We talked about that the other day. We're going to go through it a little bit more. We're going to do some welding. So today we are going to be welding the 1F fillet weld. So that's going to be a flat fillet weld, and that is going to be the starting point for today's lesson. We're going to start off with flat, and we're going to build from there. What we need to do is build the fundamentals, and flat is definitely one of the fundamentals. So when we weld, we are going to take some steel, and we are going to place it in the flat position. So in yesterday's lesson we went on, we talked about the different positions, or no, a couple days ago, not yesterday. Flat was not this way, but I had a vertical throat to the weld. And a throat is a line drawn from the bottom corner right to the center of the face of your weld. So if I was going to weld this in the flat position, this would actually be the flat position for welding, position 1. This guy right here is going to be horizontal. The axis from the corner through the center of the face of the weld is 45 degrees. That is a number 2 position weld. So we're going to talk about 1 and 2 today. Maybe just 1, depends on how this video is looking time-wise. When we do these welds, there's some things we need to consider. We could consider weld travel speed, which is going to ultimately affect how big and how good our welds look. If you've got, say, 20 volts, 275 inches a minute, and you're ripping across that plate, you're going to have this goofy looking little snake weld. Probably won't even be an entire weld. That's because we don't have enough wire and voltage to burn it off to create anything because we're traveling so fast. So travel speed is definitely something we need to take into account. And for me, often it takes me 30 seconds to get across a plate like this, sometimes more. So keep that in mind when I am doing some of this welding. Maybe just count it out and see what it takes. I'm going to do that, and I'll kind of give you guys that number. But when doing this, we have to choose how we're going to weld this. So we have to plan our attack on this weld. Fashionably late, as normal. Barricade just joined us. Thanks for coming in, Barricade. With this, we have to plan our attack. So are we going to do it in 1 pass? Are we going to do it in 3 passes? It's really tough to do a weld like this in 2 passes. You could, but I'm going to teach you guys how to do it in 3 passes. So we're going to put 1 pass right down here in the very corner, and then we're going to have a look at this. We'll clean it up, and we'll talk about that. And then we're going to do 2 more passes, 1 on either side of the cap or of the root, and that's going to create the cap. And that will give us a nice weld product at the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on this welder. I'm going to get this set up. I'm going to go through some of the PPE involved in that, how I position my body, how to effectively move across here without getting stuck, some things like that. So I'll get this welder turned on for you, and we will continue or start this lesson.
Oh, sorry for yesterday. I didn't mean to unmute. Can you hear me?
Bitch. Kulule, kulule. Hello.
All right. So what we've got is I've got this side set up. We're going to turn this on up here. for MIG welding, which it is, 40% wire. I'm going to set this to the solid wire side over here. We're going to set that for 100 speed and 275 inches a minute. And 20 volts. So 275 and 20. So many people forget to turn the gas on. And when they forget to turn the gas on, they start to weld, and it sounds just terrible. In fact, what I'm going to do, I added Mickey, thank you. What I'm going to do right off the bat, just to show you guys a bit of a difference, is I'm going to grab a scrap piece of steel. I'm going to do one weld with the gas on. I'm going to turn the gas off. I'm going to run all the gas out of the line, and I'm going to weld with no gas, and it'll sound completely different. So I'm going to grab my helmet, I'm going to grab my gloves, and we're going to do that for you guys. All right, so we got a piece of steel here. What I'm going to do is going to put a weld on here. We're going to listen to it. Should sound pretty good. And then I'm going to turn the gas off. And then we are going to put a weld on the back side. We're going to compare the two and also compare the sounds. So gas on, and I'm just going to drag the weld on here. Sounds pretty good, pretty crisp. I'm going to shut that off, purge that out. So there's no gas left in here. And right beside it, we're going to run one right here. So with gas, decent looking weld. America, what are you doing? I already let you in once. Decent looking weld right here with gas. You know, fairly flat profile. That's what we want to hear. Sounded nice and clean, a little crisp. When we were welding without the gas, it sounded more dull. And the result we got, not near as nice. So there are holes all through that. And there are the two side by side. We have, you know, some pretty poor looking welding on the one side and nice clean weld on the other. So if you guys hear that noise or you have a weld that looks like that at some point, check your gas. You're either out of it or you haven't turned it on. Or you could have a bunch of slag in the end of your cup, your gas nozzle, and it's disrupting your gas flow over your weld. So that could be an issue too. Okay, so that's a little bit about gas, no gas. We'll get this out of the way. What we're going to do is we are going to do the 1F fillet weld in a lap position. So that's a lap joint. So we're going to set this up and we are going to weld this one here. going to move this out of my way. So when I work across my body, side to side. I don't pull. It's really hard to see your weld, your build up, everything like that. But since I'm left-handed, I work from right to left. I pull, and when I'm doing that, that allows me to see my weld. If I was pushing, I'd also keep my head on the side to allow me to see my weld. If I was right-handed, I'd have my body tipped this way so I could see my weld as I pulled it. So you always have to maintain good, clear line of sight with the welds. It's just going to give you a much better result in the end anyways. So what I'm going to do is grab a piece of steel. We're going to prop this up. And I'm going to lay that first weld down in here. Right in the bottom, I'm only going to fill that groove up, that 90-degree groove. I'm only going to fill it up about halfway. I don't want that to be full in one pass. I want to do it in 3 passes here. So I'm going to set this more on this side of the table because I'm going to pull from right to left, and I don't want this thing to be in my way. Right? So if you have something like this on your table, keep that in mind that this could mess you up. Or if you can, sometimes we can just get rid of it altogether. So let's do that. It's going to make this easier today. So let's move this out of the way. All right, so I got lots of room to move here. No issues. Got no blockage there. When we are welding, we want to get comfortable and slide along. We don't really want to lock our arms into a certain position. Like if you stick your elbow on the table there and you don't move at all, you're going to end up with a weird kind of weld position that isn't going to work well for you. What I do is I get myself into a position that I'm comfortable in, and I slide along. I make sure that I can work off the edge of the table here, and I just travel nice and easy. So let's get this welded. We're going to put 1 pass in, fill it in halfway. We're going to drag it with just a slight little side-to-side weave, and that's going to help wet my weld out and get it against both of those edges on the plate. So here we go. Grab some pliers. Okay, yeah, if you had to exit and then come back, that's fine. So what I've got here is that weld joint. Almost full, not quite though. You want at least half full when you're doing this if you're going to do it in 3 passes. But right here, you can see there's an edge I haven't filled up yet. And this rod is hooking on it probably about 1/8 of an inch away from the top. That is just fine. We want consistency in our weld. We want it to be the same size from one end to the next. What are my gloves classified for? Welding. They're welding, definitely welding gloves, but these are just a good general purpose glove. They're lighter. Sometimes when I stand too close, it's hard to hear things. So now when I back up sometimes it's easier to hear. Also, my Wi-Fi is not the best in the back of the shop here. But we got that first pass on there. So what we're going to do is on either side of this one, so right against this edge here that we started on, and this one here, we're going to put 2 welds side by side. That is what we're going to do. So what I'm going to do initially is I am going to put a weld on this edge here, the one that has a square edge that I haven't quite filled up. So I'm going to put that one in, and then I'm going to put a second one in over here. I'm going to stop between passes, and I'm going to show you guys this. But when we're doing it, we got to make sure we put this back on the table in the same position that we took it from. We always want our passes to go the same way. So we always want those passes to go the same direction, and you can always tell which way it's been pulled by the lines on the weld, kind of C shapes. It's hard to see because the detail isn't the greatest in this camera, but C shapes are kind of what we want. So I'm going to put a weld on this edge here. It's going to come right out, and it's going to fill up this one edge. And the next one we're going to put right over here, and that's going to be on this side of the plate. And this will give us a nice finished cap, and it should look not quite like this one. This one's flux core, but this is a flux core weld like that. And if I tip it, you can kind of see that line between the 2 welds. It should blend together nice, creating that 45-degree weld with no real bumps or lumps or anything like that. So this was flux core, and I did this for my flux core 20-level students just earlier. So let's get this welded. So there is that pass I was talking about. This one's quite smooth, it's quite nice. Looks good. And when we hold it on edge like that, you can see it's straight. There's no undercut on the top. That's what we want. Now, what we're going to do next is with that second pass, we created a groove here. And we're going to lay some nice weld in there and fill this up, and that'll complete the weld. So it'll be completed in 3 passes. So this one here, and then, well, the first one on the bottom, this one to take that top edge, like that. Now we're going to fill this in here, giving us a nice looking weld overall. So let's get that one wrapped up. We'll cool this down, buff it up, and talk about it. decent. Okay, what I'm going to do is cool it down, buff it up, and we'll be able to see this a lot better. So here, hopefully we can catch that, is get Jason here. All right, so what I got here is, come on, focus. Pretty nice looking weld. Tip it like that, you can see it's even. No big inconsistencies in it. There is a little wobble on that bottom line, and I'm going to point that out for you guys. So right there, a bit of a wobble. Right there's a bit of a wobble. Right here is a bit of a wobble. And I got a little bit wider there. We're only talking about a small little distance though. Like, I'm not a huge, big, wide wobble. It's just a little bit there. Equal legs, 45 degrees, smooth, clean, kinda what I would like to see from you guys. I mean, you guys can weld better than this, so I can get you there, that's for sure. My goal is to have everybody out weld me. So if you guys can do that, we'll get you into the wrap program, and then we'll get you guys into making some big bucks in the welding world, into Skills Canada, stuff like that. Overall, pretty clean, pretty smooth. That's the one position. The big thing with that is making sure that you can move. So many people I know, when they weld, they get down here in a really, really comfortable spot, and they're like, yeah, this is easy to weld. They can weld 2 inches, and then they got to move, and they're all uncomfortable, and the last 4 inches really suck because they're not in a comfortable position. So what I do is I start back here, I extend into a position that is almost comfortable, and I weld back into a nice comfy position, comfy, 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 comfy. At the end, I'm starting to get uncomfortable, but I'm at the end of my weld anyways. So that's kind of a tip that I like to tell you guys to help you get better welds, because so many kids, they start in a nice comfy spot, and all of a sudden they can't come back here, or they're moving their arm in this big arc, and what happens is their stick out increases as their arm spins in an arc. Our human body, everything rotates, right? It's all in semicircles, shoulders, elbows, wrists. We don't really make a whole lot of straight lines with our body. That's one way we can do it though is with our hips. We can actually use our hips side to side. And if you're not good with dragging, you can actually just use your legs and then compensate and go side to side. So that is kind of a tip too that can help you with that. You guys, yeah, you guys should be able to do stuff like this. This is a good weld. I mean, I don't expect you to do exactly like this, but this, if I show you a good example, then you guys have something good to aspire to. If I show you an okay example, and then you do an okay weld, you're like, awesome, mine looks like the teacher's weld. Well, it could look better, so that's the thing. So I always want you guys to do better. So I like putting down good examples like this, so you guys can try and do as good as this. thing is, if you don't do as good as this, but you're almost there, still, you got a really darn nice weld. So there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah, so with what we're doing today is just creating that fit up. The 1F is going to be like that with the laps. We can also do a 1F T-weld. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to set the same thing up in a T-weld. So I'm going to take these two pieces, tack them on end, and then we're going to weld those in the same position because you may encounter welds like that. So I want to show you the laps, the T's, or even, yeah, like we can even do flat corners. Flat corners are easy too. Flat corners can be set up like this. That'll be an open corner, and you're going to weld that gap down the middle. So it could look like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up, I'm trying to think what would be easy for you guys to see. Even that corner. I'll just set up the corner and we'll do that. It'll be fun. That we'll do in 3 passes as well. And we'll just make that happen. It'll be a quick one. All right, so we got that tacked up in the open corner. We're going to weld that. So 1 pass down the middle, and then 2 edge passes, and that will fill us up. So that's a good way to do that, and make that one happen. It's okay to look away that up, right? Yeah, 100%. Okay, perfect. Yeah. The closer you get, the more detail you see. Yeah. It's just look at where it's going. It good, but you know, I really didn't get a chance to. Yeah. See that? Okay. Maybe we'll keep you around. Okay. Fun. See ya. Yeah. So with this one, guys, what we've done here is just laid a quick weld in the bottom of that one. And so that's the first one. We don't want it full up the whole way. We are going to fill up either side. We're going to do 1 stringer down either side, making sure we fill up those edges. No big valley in the middle. We don't want that. That's going to be a defect. And yeah, let's rock and roll on this one. Let's get it going. So another little thing I'll do is in the wire before I start the weld. That way I've just got a nice sharp little piece. Good contact, and we're going to start off. So hopefully camera up, angle. I guess you see it's decent. It isn't perfect. There's a couple little flaws in it. There's a little bit of a wobble right about here. Overall, fairly clean though. See if I can get it in a way that not getting a ton of reflection or a ton of issues. But overall, fairly clean, fairly simple to do. You guys should be able to do stuff like this after 20 level, I think. I think at 20 level we start working on corners and things like that. You guys leave here with skills somewhat close to what I have. Say leave high school, you guys should have no problem being employed in the welding industry. And I know some of you guys are just taking this for fun, and some are maybe trying to take it more seriously. So it's something to think about. Developing skills is great. And I had a little something going on in the background when I was welding there. You guys may not have noticed, but if I turn this way, if we look at that spool of wire in the top corner of the screen there, that S6 solid wire, we're out. See, I've got about 15 wraps left on that entire roll of 44 pounds, and that is done. So we're gonna actually cut that off there, and I'm gonna replace this once I'm done this video for the day. But yeah, I can show you guys that here. So I knew it was gonna be tight for today's lesson, but I wanted to show you guys, we don't have much wire on there. Yeah, so that is going to be it for today's lesson, guys. There is a quick quiz. I am going to get that to you. I'll open that up in just a minute. A couple things that are probably going to be on there, talking about weld preparation. It's always good to do. Clean up your steel before you weld it, get your rust, your mill scale, about 65 bucks, I think. About 65 bucks. So you get a lot of weld out of it, but not something you really want to damage or break. I get a pretty good school discount, so I think for people in the industry who don't get the deals that I do, I think it would be more, probably 75, 80. But I get them for a pretty good deal, considering we go through a bunch of them, and I've made pretty good friends with a lot of the salespeople that I work with. Yeah, so some of the things that are probably going to be on the test, steel preparation. We want to make sure our steel is clean. We can grind it clean, buff it clean, brush it clean, whatever it takes, but it's always good to have a clean piece of steel to work on. Talk about direction of travel. We're always traveling the same way. We're not pulling one way, then pulling the other way, and then pulling, and then pushing. That doesn't work well that way. If that was on a job site and a welding inspector saw that weld and he sees stringers going different ways because there are different shaped C's going left and then going right, he's probably just going to go with a big old fail on it. So that's not what I want to see. It's outside of the weld procedure. Yeah, that's not a good thing. With this, checking your gas is on is always an important thing. We need to have gas. I showed you guys that weld earlier. Hopefully it's cool. So bring that one back for a second. We talked about no gas, horrible looking gross weld. It sounded weird versus gas. Decent looking weld, no porosity in sight, which is awesome. So that's going to be a solid weld, and this is going to be a not so solid weld. Technically sound, technically. So yeah, that's how that works. Yeah, so thank you much, guys. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop recording, stop my video, and mute my mic. I will be here for 15 or so minutes. Drop your name in the chat if you haven't yet. That is my attendance, and we are going to get things happening. Okay, thank you much, guys. I really appreciate it. Have yourselves a great day, and any issues, pop me an email, yell at me through the screen. It's fine with me. Okay, thanks, guys. Have a great day.